The Alphabet Murders. My name is Alex Riley. I work out of habit, live on autopilot, and sleep only when I'm not thinking about death, which is rarely. Murders can be accidental. They can be crimes of passion. Sometimes they even make sense. But this one was going by the alphabet. A, B, C. Each time a name, a note, and a body. Strict, precise, as if scripted. I'd think it was the work of a maniac if it didn't look so perfectly staged. And I don't play the audience in staged acts. I'm the guy who steps out in the final scene and breaks the fourth wall. Chapter 1A is for Angela Archer. A bookshop on the corner of 9th and Maple. It looked not just forgotten, but erased from the city's memory. The sign was half faded, the air smelled like coffee without coffee, and the shelves seemed like they were loaded with dust on purpose. That's where I found her. Angela Archer, the owner. Loved the classics, hated ebooks, and didn't talk to anyone who read Harry Potter past the age of 25. Now she was lying on the floor between the English literature and political memoirs sections. Eyes open, a face like someone who realized, just a second too late, that the book should have been put down. Max, my partner, was by the window. Junior detective, the kind of guy they pair with someone like me to supervise the process. In reality, someone to take notes. Looks clean, he said, scanning the floor. Exactly, I nodded. Too clean, not even a book out of place. Someone came to kill, not to browse. On the victim's chest, a white card. On it, typed neatly, A is for Angela. I sighed. So it begins. Max squinted. What does? The alphabet murder, I said. Classic. Agatha Christie. No Poirot, though, just us. He stepped closer, reading the card. Maybe it's just a signature? Number. That's not a signature. That's a style. And style leaves a trace. The store was empty. One camera by the door. One at the register. We pulled the footage. 10:13 a.m. Angela's talking to a customer. Tall. Dark coat. Face obscured. 10:15 customer leaves. 10:17 Angela walks behind the shelf. 10:18 camera goes dead. 10:21 it comes back. Angela's on the floor. Glitch? Max asked. Script, I said. Someone knows how to cut a moment, which means they prepared. On the way out, I noticed a card under a shelf. Black, glossy, only 2 letters printed. AA. Hers? Max asked. No, I replied. Angela wouldn't type her name twice. That's not a name. It's a signature. That night, I sat in the office, staring at the alphabet like a death list. If A was done, B would be next. And if the killer really was going in order, we had one day. On Wall Street, a murder doesn't look like drama. It looks like a bad investment, sudden, cold, and calculated. Brian Bloom, broker, used to hold stocks. Now he held the chill of death. He was found in the morning. 38th floor penthouse. View of the Hudson. Glass. Marble. Silence. Max was already inside, with coffee in one hand and hesitation in the other. No forced entry, alarm untouched. Cameras went out 4 minutes before time of death. He read off. Looks like he let the killer in. Of course he did, I said. It's Bloom. A guy who trusted no one, but always opened the door if he thought there was money behind it. The body was lying next to the grand piano. On his chest, the same white card. B is for Brian. Max exhaled. That's it. The second one. This is a chain. I stayed quiet, staring at his hands. A faint ring mark on his finger, but no ring. A cigar on the table, barely lit. A single drop of wax on the floor. See it? I asked. What? There's no candle in the room, but there's wax. That means someone brought their own. By evening, we found a camera not linked to the building's security. A neighbor across the street, a Manhattan View collector, mounted a camera on a tripod, and it caught something. 3:46 a.m., a figure exiting the building, wearing a hat, black gloves, stepped confident, no panic. I froze the frame. Look at the right hand. What about it? The finger's dented. The ring was removed. After death, he didn't just take the life. He took the symbol. You think it's the same guy? Max asked. No, I said. I think it's a director, Max, and we're in his film. At midnight, I was back at the office. On the board A and B, two faces, two files, no connection. On the desk, a third card. Someone had left it. C is coming. Signed, yours truly. I smirked. So, you want me to play? Fine, I'll play. Just remember, I'm not the guy who dies in Act 3. The third death is always the key. The first, a shock. The second, suspicion. But the third, that's when you realize this is no accident. This is a series, and someone's decided to read it by letters. Claire Carter. A name like a commercial slogan. Hair like a woman who knows exactly where she stands and under which light she shines best. High society caviar, the face of charity luncheons, former actress, former model, former just about everything. Rooftop party, Hotel Delirium, 25th floor. Jazz, flash bowls, champagne in glasses where ambition usually floats. It looked expensive. Smelled like a setup. Max was at the bar pretending to drink. In reality, as always, taking mental notes. He had a theory. If someone's taking a selfie, they're not the killer. I didn't argue. He was still learning. Death came at 10:47 p.m. Claire had just raised her glass, said something to the camera guy, took a sip, smiled, and 5 seconds later dropped. No sound, no scream, like the lights were cut. People froze, then clapped, thought it was part of the act. But I knew the act was just beginning. We were at her side in under a minute. Claire wasn't breathing. On the glass tabletop, a white card. C is for Claire. This can't be a coincidence, Max murmured. It's a pattern, I said. He nodded. I'll check the cameras. Quickly. Looks like the killer doesn't enjoy waiting. The coroner arrived 40 minutes later. Cause of death, cyanide, a classic. Bitter almond scent. Elegant and lethal. The champagne? I asked. Number? The ice cube. I turned to Max. He came back with a tablet. We've got a problem. The rooftop camera didn't record from 10:30 to 11 p.m. It overheated allegedly. I smirked. See what happens when the killer understands tech better than the cops? Interviews with the guests turned up nothing. Everyone saw Claire laughing. Everyone heard her say, I'm back on top. No one saw who dropped the ice in her drink. By dawn, I was back at my place. The cards were laid out. A, B, C, 3 victims. 3 different profiles. 1 shared detail. They all received the same anonymous letter 3 days before their deaths. Just one word. Prepare. Max asked, You think he's playing with us? I looked out the window. I think, Max, he's not playing with us. He's casting us. There's a thing called the silence before the shot. It doesn't scream, it breathes, slow, dry, right down your neck. I was waiting for the next body because logically it had to happen. D is for, but nothing happened. And that scared me more than a corpse on the floor. We were sitting in the car, parked across from the Davenport Hotel. Too elegant a name to be a coincidence. Too obvious to ignore. It's 1:10 already, Max said, eyes glued to the tablet. No calls, no alerts, nothing. It's clean. I didn't answer. Just sipped my coffee, black like our odds. You think he changed his mind? Killers don't change their minds, I said. They adjust the script. 3 days ago, we found another letter. This time, no address. No signature. Just a single letter. D. Bold. Printed. And beneath it, a line. Don't look for the body. Look for the silence. Max kept turning the letter in his hands. What the hell does that even mean? I just shrugged. It means he's already ahead of us. We checked every D name in the system. Darlene Miller alive. Donald Hemsley too. Dylan Ross arrested for a bar fight. No one dead. No one even sneezed. Which means the murder didn't happen. Or we just haven't found it yet. That night, I didn't sleep. I drifted through the office like a ghost. On the board, 3 cards. A, B, C, D blank. A letter without a victim. And that pissed me off. Because even maniacs should keep rhythm. When the rhythm breaks, you're not in a story anymore. You're in improvisation. And improvisation kills more often than poison. In the morning, Max brought the report. You won't believe this. Try me. One person with a D name vanished last night. Daniel Doyle, bank clerk, last seen at his office. After that, like he fell off the planet. Body? Nothing. No trace in the city, no clinic reports, not on any flight manifest. Just gone. I looked at him. There's your D. We drove to his house. Ordinary place. Ordinary building. Inside, empty. Not just no one lives here. More like no one ever has. On the fridge, a note. Yellowed. Taped on. One line, handwritten. I left before you arrived. D. Max exhaled. He's playing. With words. With letters. I nodded. Which means, Max, he's alive. The killer isn't the one who hides bodies. He hides meaning. Not everyone dies loudly. Some just stop being. Like the lights went out in an old house. Edward Ellis was one of those. He didn't scream, he didn't call for help. He simply disappeared. The neighbors found him. 2 days, no movement. Newspaper on the doorstep. Mailbox full. The door wasn't locked. Inside an old study. In the air, faint smell of coffee. And an even fainter scent of almond, cyanide. Again, like Claire, but served differently. On the desk, a cup, still half full. Sediment at the bottom. In Ellis's hand, a letter. Not typed, handwritten. E is for Edward, and for everything you ruined. Max stood in the corner, silent. For the first time, truly silent. He was a nobody, he finally said. Retired, alone, no enemies, no debts. You believe that? I asked. I want to, but no, I don't. Edward Ellis, former judge, retired 10 years ago. Quietly, no scandal, no headlines. But we dug deeper. And Found one case, old, abandoned, no follow-up, Doyle versus State. Sound familiar? Daniel Doyle, Max whispered. Our missing D. So it wasn't a murder, and it wasn't a disappearance. It was a connection, a chain. A, B, C. D vanished. E dead. And all of them connected. That night, I went back to Ellis's apartment, alone. Opened the drawer of his desk. Inside notes, handwritten pages, an old case file, and on one of the sheets, a familiar handwriting, calligraphic, precise, the same as the cards left at each scene. You thought it would go unnoticed? Every letter is your reminder. By the time you reach the end of the alphabet, you'll remember everything. I stared at the page and felt it in my gut. This wasn't just revenge. It was an execution order. And we were just granted front row seats. Jazz teaches you one thing. Sometimes silence is better than a false note. But Finn Foster never learned silence. He lived loud, died sudden, and left behind the kind of silence that rings in your ears. Finn Foster, 42. Musician, composer, semi-known. Died last night. Recording studio on Broome Street. Found by his assistants. Hanged. Headphones on playing his last track. Sheet music on the stand. Only it wasn't notes. On the music stand, F is for final. Max winced. He's just repeating letters now. No, I said. He's raising the stakes. The room like frozen sound. Silence so heavy, it lacked air. On the floor, a broken guitar. Not a prop, a sign. Do you hear that? Max asked. What? There's no background noise, not even the vents. Studio shut down. Yeah, 10 minutes before death. I nodded. So he wanted Finn to hear only himself. Or only the killer, Max added. Around his neck, a strange mark. Not rope. Guitar string. Thick. Tied by hand. Professional. Brutal. Beautiful. As if jazz itself was getting revenge for a fake life. We found a recorder in the room. The tape played only 6 seconds. You forgot, but I didn't. Then silence. Then a single note. F. Did he have enemies? Max asked. Finn? Sued his label. Tanked a few contracts. Lived fast. Talked loud. And once in an interview he said, some people deserve silence literally. Max paled. You think he killed someone? Or signed someone's death warrant? His own. Or someone else's. And now it's been returned. Above the music stand a photo. Old. Faded. 5 people. Finn was one. The others in shadow. I took a photo. In the corner, a signature. Summer '05, The Silence Project. You ever heard of that? I asked Max. He shook his head. But this isn't a list of victims anymore. No, Max. It's a damn brotherhood. And now someone's taking them out one by one. There are guests you didn't invite. There are guests who come unannounced. And then there are those no one sees, but everyone remembers. That's who G was. There was no death. But there was dread, which means someone did everything right. It started with a photograph. A letter came in the morning. Paper, postmarked, old school. The envelope gray. No stamp, no return address. Inside a photo, group shot, a party, close up, a hand holding a glass, a smile to the lens, golden light. Handwritten under the photo, G was here. Max turned it over in his hands. Where is this from? I don't know, I said, but I was at that party. What? A month ago, a client invited me. That room that night I was there. And in this picture, that's me, in the corner. Max brought it closer. And who the hell is G? That's the thing, Max. I don't remember this person. We started the search. Guests 48. We had the list. We had the photos. Facial recognition came back blank. The person in the frame doesn't exist. 2 days, no movement. Newspaper on the doorstep. Mailbox full. The door wasn't locked. Inside an old study. In the air, faint smell of coffee. And an even fainter scent of almond. Cyanide. Again, like Claire, but served differently. On the desk, a cup. Still half full. Sediment at the bottom. In Ellis's hand, a letter. Not typed. Handwritten. E is for Edward. And for everything you ruined. Max stood in the corner. Silent. For the first time, truly silent. He was a nobody, he finally said. Retired. Alone. No enemies. No debts. You believe that? I asked. I want to. But no, I don't. Edward Ellis. Former judge. Retired 10 years ago. Quietly. No scandal. No headlines. But we dug deeper. And found one case. Old. Abandoned. No follow-up. Doyle versus State. Sound familiar? Daniel Doyle, Max whispered. Our missing D. So it wasn't a murder. And it wasn't a disappearance. It was a connection. A chain. A, B, C, D vanished. E dead. And all of them connected. That night, I went back to Ellis's apartment. Alone. Opened the drawer of his desk. Inside notes. Handwritten pages. An old case file. And on one of the sheets, a familiar handwriting. Calligraphic. Precise. The same as the cards left at each scene. You thought it would go unnoticed? Every letter is your reminder. By the time you reach the end of the alphabet, you'll remember everything. I stared at the page and felt it in my gut. This wasn't just revenge. It was an execution order. And we were just granted front row seats. Jazz teaches you one thing. Sometimes silence is better than a false note. But Finn Foster never learned silence. He lived loud, died sudden, and left behind the kind of silence that rings in your ears. Finn Foster, 42. Musician, composer, semi-known. Died last night, recording studio on Broome Street. Found by his assistant, hanged. Headphones on playing his last track. Sheet music on the stand. Only it wasn't notes. On the music stand, F is for final. Max winced. He's just repeating letters now. No, I said. He's raising the stakes. The room like frozen sound. Silence so heavy, it lacked air. On the floor, a broken guitar. Not a prop. A sign. Do you hear that? Max asked. What? There's no background noise. Not even the vents. Studio shut down. Yeah. 10 minutes before death. I nodded. So he wanted Finn to hear only himself. Or only the killer, Max added. Around his neck, a strange mark. Not rope. Guitar string. Thick. Tied by hand. Professional. Brutal. Beautiful. As if jazz itself was getting revenge for a fake life. We found a recorder in the room. The tape played only 6 seconds. You forgot, but I didn't. Then silence. Then a single note. F. Did he have enemies? Max asked. Finn? Sued his label. Tanked a few contracts. Lived fast. Talked loud. And once in an interview, he said, some people deserve silence literally. Max paled. You think he killed someone or signed someone's death warrant? His own or someone else's. And now it's been returned. Above the music stand a photo, old, faded. 5 people. Finn was one. The others in shadow. I took a photo. In the corner, a signature. Summer 5, the Silence Project. You ever heard of that? I asked Max. He shook his head. But this isn't a list of victims anymore. No, Max. It's a damn brotherhood. And now someone's taking them out one by one. There are guests you didn't invite. There are guests who come unannounced. And then there are those no one sees, but everyone remembers. That's who G was. There was no death, but there was dread, which means someone did everything right. It started with a photograph. A letter came in the morning. Paper, postmarked, old school. The envelope gray, no stamp, no return address. Inside a photo, group shot, a party, close up, a hand holding a glass, a smile to the lens, golden light. Handwritten, under the photo, G was here. Max turned it over in his hands. Where is this from? I don't know, I said, but I was at that party. What? A month ago, a client invited me. That room, that night, I was there. And in this picture, that's me in the corner. Max brought it closer. And who the hell is G? That's the thing, Max. I don't remember this person. We started the search. Guests 48. We had the list. We had the photos. Facial recognition came back blank. The person in the frame doesn't exist. Or he's being hidden very carefully. It was the first time the killer didn't leave a body. He left a memory, which means he's already close. I drove to Stephen Durow, the owner of the mansion where the party took place. Walls like a bank, cameras like a casino, everything recorded, everything archived. Stephen answered in a robe, with the face of a man whose morning champagne meditation had just been interrupted, or he's being hidden very carefully. It was the first time the killer didn't leave a body. He left a memory, which means he's already close. I drove to Stephen Durow, the owner of the mansion where the party took place. Walls like a bank, cameras like a casino, everything recorded, everything archived. Stephen answered in a robe, with the face of a man whose morning champagne meditation had just been interrupted. Riley, I thought after the last incident we were... This isn't your business, Stephen. It's ours. And his... I showed him the photo. Recognize this person? He stared. His eyes twitched. It can't be... Who? He exhaled, walked to the bar, poured himself a whiskey. At 9:15 a.m., that meant it was serious. His name was Garrett. Garrett Morris, programmer, introvert. Died 2 years ago. Suicide. It was in the news. I froze. And now he's in your photo? Now he's one of the guests. We checked everything. Yes, Garrett Morris. Died in 2023. Cause of death, suicide. But the file? Buried under a memo. Closed due to lack of criminal element. Max exhaled. You think he's alive? I think someone wants us to think that. And that's more dangerous than the truth. That same night, I returned to the office, alone. No Max. On the desk, a card. G is not for Garrett. G is for a ghost. And for the first time, a signature. Yours, Arkansas. Max? Number, not his handwriting. A.R. Alex Riley. I clenched the paper. I stayed calm. But something inside didn't. He's not just playing anymore. He's writing for me. The signal for H will come tomorrow. I'm sure of it. But I'm no longer chasing the alphabet. Now I'm waiting for the letter to become a mirror. Not everyone dies right away. Sometimes death plays hide and seek. Sometimes it leaves someone alive. To tell the story, or to keep it silent, Holly Harper, 29. Psychologist. Worked with veterans, teens, and the occasional problematic rich. No enemies, no debts, no record. She was found in the morning unconscious in her own apartment. Pulse barely there. Light coma. Injection marks. Not drugs. Not alcohol. Anesthetic. Medical. Clean. Nearly impossible to obtain. Max stared at the report. This wasn't an overdose. It was deliberate shutdown. I said nothing because I knew the killer didn't miss. He changed his mind. On the pillow, a card. H is for her, but not today. The room was quiet. Holly had come to, sitting up, pale, eyes like an animal that escaped the trap but remembers the steel. Eyes sat beside her. Max stayed behind the glass. Holly, do you remember anything? Footsteps in the dark. Someone in a mask. Did you know him? Number he didn't speak. Except, what? She slowly turned her head. He touched my hair and whispered, "You're too early." We stepped into the hallway. Max whispered, "What does that mean?" It means he's working on a schedule. The alphabet? Maybe. Or something bigger. We went back inside. Holly was sitting by the window, staring down at the street. I remember something else, she said softly. Go on. He left the photo, but he took it before leaving. What was on it? Me and 4 others. We were teenagers. Summer camp. And one boy, name? She shivered. I don't remember, but he had this game. He called everyone by a letter. I was H. Max went pale. So did I. So it's not just a list. It's a return. That evening I was in my office, alone. The board held everything, from A to H. And somewhere between those letters, a meaning I still couldn't see. But it was close. And then, a text. No number. I'm almost at the middle, Alex. Ready for I, yours. Illusion is the most honest lie. It doesn't ask you to believe. It just shows you what you already want to see, and then disappears, leaving you with the truth or with the body. Ingrid Lawson, 31. Photographer. Worked with foundations. Shot psychiatric clinics, veterans, urban decay. Lived alone. Rented a studio in Brooklyn. She was found in the morning. Bathroom door open. Water still warm. Wrist cleanly cut. On the edge of the tub, a camera. In the lens, a card. I is for Ingrid, or for the image you wanted me to believe. Max was first on the scene. I arrived later angry at myself. I thought she didn't fit. That I would come later. I was wrong. Why the bath? I asked. Symbolism, cleansing, or a performance? What do you think? Max paused. Too long. I think you didn't want her to be a victim. I looked at him. He didn't flinch. Why? Because you knew her. Flashback. 2 years ago, a case of abuse in a private clinic. I was investigating. She was documenting. We had a brief affair, nothing serious, but it was real. She once told me, "You don't catch criminals, Riley. You just wait for them to destroy themselves. You're an observer with a cold face." I remember that because it hurt. And because it was true, now she was dead. But not just dead. On the mirror, a note, handwriting unfamiliar. Not her blood. On white paper, you said she was strong. I just showed you she wasn't. Max stood in the doorway. "This one's for you." I know. I sat on the edge of the tub, watched the steam from the water melt into the air. He killed her because of me. Or for me. That evening, Max said, "We should call the FBI. This is bigger than us." "No," I said. "This is exactly about us. And only us." "Riley, you're losing your objectivity." I wasn't objective from the first letter. I just didn't know I was already being read. Back at the office, on the board beneath it a black and white portrait of Ingrid. Her handwriting on the edge, "Don't shoot if you're not ready to look." That night I woke to noise. Not in the house. Inside me. Deep in the mind, a thought. Simple. The next letter isn't J. The next letter is U. Justice isn't about truth. It's about a version of the truth. James knew that's why he died. Before 11:30 a.m., I was in the office. Max came in later than usual. Eyes like someone who had finally decided not to live in the background anymore. "We've got a letter," he said. "Only one line on the envelope. J is not for a name. J is for a man who thought he could balance the scales." I took the page. Black ink. Handwriting still the same. Like someone who once wrote legal judgments. Precise. Detached. "Do we have a name?" I asked. "James Ellington. A judge. Retired in 2019. Famous for letting people off on moral remorse. Especially the young. Especially the privileged." "Who did he let go?" "From our list, Garrett Morris. The one who supposedly killed himself. The one who was supposedly G." I stood. "Where is he?" "At home. Under protection. Let's go." After 2:12 p.m. James's house. Outskirts. Stone walls. Too quiet. By the time we entered, he was already dead. Hanging from a hook in the basement, the shadow of the body fell against the wall like a robe hung on a nail. "Not a suicide," I said immediately. "Too clean," Max nodded. On the floor, a book, a Bible. The bookmark was at the chapter on the judgment of Solomon. Inside a note, "J is for justice. You judged him. Now I judge you." I stood in that basement, and for the first time in a long time, it wasn't anger in my chest. It was fear. Because this wasn't just a killer. It was someone with moral accounting. A system, and I no longer knew which side I was on. Back at the office, Max was silent. "You want to say something?" I asked. He exhaled. "Yeah, you're missing the big picture." "What?" "He's talking to you. You think you're tracking him, but he's been watching how you react the whole time." I sat, closed my eyes. J is for just you and me, Alex. He wrote that he knew I'd read it as personal. Max left. I stayed. Night, whiskey, rain, office, me, and silence. The kind where letters are born. Some murders are like traps. Invisible, silent, and then snap. And all you have time to do is fall. Catherine Lee, 24. Journalist, worked on a podcast, was producing a series on wrongful convictions. Too smart, too stubborn, and too close to our alphabet. She was writing about Garrett Morris, arguing that he didn't kill himself. He was erased. Max and I got to her apartment after a call from her editor. She's not answering. Missed her slot. Door locked. No signs of forced entry. Max went to call backup. I stayed. Bad feeling, like static behind your teeth. You feel it but can't explain it. Inside silence. Lights on. Coffee on the table, cold. On the wall, a board, like mine. Cards, A, B, C, J. Photos, prints, case notes. She was investigating, parallel to us. In the center, a photo of me, marked, he knows, but how much? I didn't hear the footsteps. I never heard the door close. By the time I turned, the card was already on the table. K is for Catherine. And for the knife you missed. They found Catherine 2 hours later. In a car. Abandoned lot. Tires slashed. Body gently placed in the back seat. Throat cut. No signs of struggle. Or no time for it. Max never showed. Phone silent. Officer said he left, but never arrived. Camera feed cuts off. No sign of the car. Not yet. I stood alone. In the field. Night. Lightning. Headlights flaring. And in my pocket, another card. Found near Catherine's body. L is not for love. L is for loss. And it's yours, Alex. Loss isn't when you bury someone. Loss is when you're alive. But nothing you do can change a thing. That's what L really is. Not death. Powerlessness. Max had been gone for 3 days. Officially on leave. Formally for personal reasons. But I knew the truth. Max didn't leave. Max was removed. Office empty. Coffee cup untouched. Notebook open to an old article. The man who knew too much but never told anyone. I didn't remember putting it there. Or maybe I did and refused to admit it. Board untouched. But when I stepped closer, L was already written. In red, a chalk I never used. Handwriting not mine. Beneath the letter, a photo. Max. Bound. Blindfolded. In the background, a shadow. Face, shape, familiar. Too familiar. On the back of the photo, L is for loyalty. Break it, and you lose more than your friend. I sat down, and then I realized this isn't about Max. It's about me. All this time, he wasn't killing random people. He was removing everyone who had ever been close to me. Flash, 2009, psychiatric clinic. A patient, boy, 14. Smart, terrifying, alone, The name was sealed, but I remember the eyes. Eyes that didn't blink while I read him a bedtime story. Because back then, I wasn't a detective. I was a student, an intern, and I left him there. I opened the closet, old box. Inside the file, RK. Erased, forgotten, but not by him. And now I knew M would be Max, N someone else. But R wasn't Riley. Riley was A from the very beginning. Real revenge doesn't scream. It whispers. Long, scraping. When you call and no one answers, M doesn't stand for murder. M stands for mute. 2:42 p.m., Fulton Street subway station. Anonymous message. You'll find him where footsteps can't be heard. I knew where to go. The underground was empty. The echo of my steps slid across the concrete walls like a voice from the past. On the bench, a bag. A card clipped to the handle. M is for Max. He talked too much. I stepped closer, opened it. Inside, Max's jacket, his badge, his phone, and a recorder. I pressed play. Max's voice. If you're listening to this, I'm either an idiot or I figured it out too late. Riley, he's been playing with us. With you. From the very beginning. Remember 2009? The clinic? That boy, he wasn't a patient. He was a watcher. They sent him. He was observing. And he chose you. Back then, because you were the only one who wasn't afraid of him. And that was his wound. The most dangerous one. I stood there, frozen. The killer wasn't Chance. This was my story. My mistake, my shadow. I called, Max, if you're alive, pick up. Nothing. Again, only a single tone. Then, this number is no longer available. On the wall, writing, blood, paint, didn't matter. N is next. But R was always the reason. Sometimes you don't catch the killer. Sometimes you're just chasing a reflection in a shattered mirror. And only then do you realize you weren't looking at him. You were looking at yourself. 11:40 p.m. Old theater in Brooklyn, closed since 2010. Last showing Memento. No one noticed when it reopened. For one audience, for me, on stage a chair, in it a man, back straight, fingers interlocked. You came, Alex, he said without turning. The voice familiar. Too familiar. I stepped closer. Who are you? He stood, turned, the one you left behind. At the clinic, number in your head. He was older than I remembered. But the eyes the same. They called me Raymond back then, in the file. Now, it doesn't matter. Why? He smirked. Because names are illusion. Letters, the path. You followed the trail, Riley. But this wasn't about murders. Then what was it? He stepped closer. It was a test. Every letter a piece of your life. Every death someone you could have saved. But didn't. Because you observe. Like then, like always. Pause. I didn't reach for my gun. I couldn't. Max? He nodded. Alive. For now. but the choice is yours. He pulled out two objects, a map and a key. One leads to him, the other to me, but if you choose me, he disappears. Why you? He looked out at the empty theater. Because you made me. When you decided you could be a detective and still be human, you were wrong. And now choose. Silence. On stage, a shadow. In the air, no words. I took a step and fired at the light, at the ceiling, not at him. He smiled. Still playing by the rules? Fine. Then live by them. He tossed the key and vanished into the curtains. 2 a.m. Abandoned building. Max alive. Exhausted. Bound. I untied him. He was silent. Then just one word. Why? I didn't answer. Later. The office. Night. Everything the same. On the board, the alphabet, almost complete. A blank. B blank. R, a mirror. I sat down, lit a cigarette, and wrote, R is for Riley. And I'm still here.